Not going to lie, this game pissed me off, all right? I thought it would be a good idea to go out there and pick up the Rams kicker. I'm thinking, oh, okay, the Rams are favored by 8.5 points. They should win this game. They should be able to play it conservatively. They should be able to kick a field goal when they won. So I dropped the Ravens kicker with no Lamar, pick up the Rams kicker. And of course, the Rams at the very end of the game, go for it on fourth. Don't kick the field goal to extend it. And now I don't blame them. Obviously, the kicker was freaking, he was horrible. I'm lucky to have a single point. But we'll go ahead and we'll talk about everything. Let's save the Rams until later. Obviously, we're going to have to do some updates to our rest of season rankings. Let's just go position by position here. Super impressive game from Mac Jones. Like, previous to this game, I had no opinion, positive or negative, of Mac Jones. It was just neutral to me. I couldn't care less about the dude. But I came away from this being a Mac Jones fan. The dude looked like they took him out of a hospital bed, put him in an Uber, threw the Niners jersey on him, and said, go out there and win us a football game on a Thursday night against one of the best teams in the league. And Mac Jones, he couldn't even follow through when he was throwing the ball. Like, the dude was cooked. And he got it done. 342 passing yards, multiple passing touchdowns. Now, in terms of updating our rankings, do I need to go, we need to move Mac Jones up? No, I don't. Of course we're not. Brock Purdy's the starter here in the long term. There's not really a reason for you to go out there and think you need to pick up Mac Jones. And also, Mac Jones not going to run the ball either. So, fantasy football upside's non-existent. Now, CMC, the efficiency is still not there. Like, I know this is crazy to say, because you can look at my rankings and you can see I have McCaffrey as the best asset in fantasy football. I have Christian McCaffrey obviously as the RB1 here as well. So it's like weird for me to say the CMC doesn't look that good. It just looks like they're willing to say, yeah, you can have 30 touches a game. You're our only guy on offense. It doesn't matter if the efficiency is not there as a rusher, because frankly, we need you. So you get another 30 opportunities for CMC. The efficiency's not there. The big plays aren't there. Under 3 yards per carry. Obviously, a lot of this has to do with the fact that there were no wide receivers, so the Rams could just game plan against the run. But kind of regardless, not blaming CMC. Just we really haven't seen the big plays all year. We really haven't seen the rushing touchdown all year at this point. But with McCaffrey, he still remains my RB1 in fantasy. The usage is just simply going to be too good for us to have him anywhere else. Nothing else to talk about at running backs with the Niners. The only thing is Brian Robinson, premium handcuff. If CMC were to go down, Brian Robinson would probably be a must-start player. Now, clearly, McCaffrey, best asset in fantasy. The only thing you could possibly say against him is maybe, just maybe, you are at risk for an injury when you're seeing 30 opportunities a game. And I didn't have McCaffrey ranked at RB1 coming into the season because I was maybe a little bit worried about those injuries. I had Bijan, Gibbs, and Saquon Barkley all ranked ahead of CMC. I had McCaffrey as my RB4. Clearly, I'll take. But if the Niners are giving him 30 touches a game, I'm going to assume that they know better than I do, and injuries aren't going to be a concern. Now, clearly the number one thing that we need to discuss, and clearly the number one storyline here is going to be Kendrick Bourne. I wish that I was smart enough to have known that Kendrick Bourne was an auto start as soon as we were told not only is there no Ricky Pearsall, not only is there no Jawan Jennings, there's no George Kittle, it's Kendrick Bourne, McCaffrey, and that is it. But again, the projections with this offense had them as one of the lowest scoring offenses of the week. So I didn't think we needed to go out there and jam in Kendrick Bourne. I'll say with this as well, Ian Rappaport came through and he already said that George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall all could return for week 6. Now, Brandon Ayuk remains weeks away from returning. We're not going to get Ayuk anytime soon, but these other wide receivers should be back sooner rather than later, right? So if we go ahead and if we pull this up to where we are ranking Kendrick Bourne rest of season, where is this dude? Are we going to have to control F his name? We had Kendrick Bourne, wide receiver 56, right in the same range as Shaheed. So here's the thing. Let's go ahead, and you can obviously always pull up the stats of any players that you want to see on flockfantasy.com, blah, blah, blah. Let me go ahead and let's view it this way. Sorted by Mason Dodd. He was wide receiver 57. So here's my thing with Kendrick Bourne. He's like a 30-year-old wide receiver that we go through his NFL career. Obviously, phenomenal game this past week, but 2024, his best. Let's even look at it this way. Career points per game for Kendrick Bourne, who was drafted in 2017, and now we're on to 2015. Drafted the same year as McCaffrey, same year as Alvin Kamara, same year as Leonard Fournette, who's long retired by now, same year as Dalvin Cook. The man has one season averaging 10 points per game or more when he played more than 10 games. His highest finish ever has been wide receiver 32 points per game. So realistically, if I'm looking at this, while it was a phenomenal performance from Kendrick Bourne, and while I wish I had him a lot higher in my weekly rankings this week, I wish I would have been smart enough to tell you to start him, pick him up in my own league and start him, because God knows I need him. I'm freaking starting T. Higgins and Jerry Jeudy with the buys this week. I don't think he turns into a must-start player going into the future. Like, realistically, I think I'd probably rather have the tier of like Ayuk, Downs, Mooney, Cups. Like, I think he's a waiver wire pickup. If you were to have no Pearsall, no Jawan Jennings this next week, then sure, Kendrick Bourne's interesting. But if they play, I'm not starting Kendrick Bourne ever. Jake Tongas, and nobody here changes in San Francisco. Kendrick Bourne, he was a great play this week, but next week he probably won't be. CMC was our number one player in fantasy coming into this. He's our number one player in fantasy coming out of it. So we're going to leave that as is. Let's move over and let's look at the Los Angeles Rams. Now, like I said, I'm the idiot here. I freaking started the Rams kicker thinking that was a good pickup. Clearly not. Matthew Stafford blows up 389 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. And with Stafford, we've seen this passing volume from him already this season, right? Like, this isn't the first time. Matthew Stafford is always an option to lead the NFL in passing any given week. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up on the site. But last week against Indianapolis, Matthew Stafford was the QB2 in fantasy points with 27. He also had 375 passing yards last week and 3 passing touchdowns. Now, realistically, is Stafford anything more than a weekly streamer based off matchup? No. The reason is you can't project this type of passing volume every single week, while at the same time, you're not going to have any rushing upside whatsoever. Now, let's go over and let's look at what we have with the skill positional names. So, Kyren Williams is probably the storyline of this game on the Rams side of this. The reason being is Kyren Williams, from a fantasy football perspective, absolutely massive. Now, I was really rooting for Kyren Williams in this game selfishly because I'm number 1 in my league right now at 4-0. Sal Vetri is number 2 in the league at 3-1. The editor of the Flock League channel is playing Sal this week. Obviously, if I'm first in the league, I want the team that's second in the league to lose. The editor of the Flock League channel had Kyren Williams, so I had fingers crossed, really open for a big Kyren game. And Kyren Williams comes through with a ridiculous amount of fantasy points. As a rusher, maybe it's not the most exciting thing in the world. You only get 65 rushing yards. But as a receiver here with Kyren, he has 10 targets, 8 receptions, 66 receiving yards, and multiple receiving touchdowns. So if we go ahead and we actually look at the amount of points that Kyren Williams ended up scoring despite the fumble, Kyren Williams scored 31 fantasy points this week. Phenomenal. I think his high or lower on fantasy points on Underdog was like 17.5. Like, blows the expectations out the water. Now, looking at where I had Kyren Williams in my rest of season rankings coming into this, I had Kyren Williams at RB12. I had him right behind Derrick Henry, Amari Hampton, Ashton Jeanty, Josh Jacobs, Achane, James Cook, Saquon Barkley. I had him right ahead of Buck Irving, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams. Do I feel like we need to move Kyren Williams dramatically up or down from this game? Not particularly. So let's go back over and let's look at the stats on the site here. As if we go ahead and we look at actually the trend that we had coming into this game. Now, obviously, this does not play out this week. I'll be very interested to see what the snap rates are, but Kyren Williams had for 4 straight weeks actually seen a lower percentage of the Los Angeles Rams carries, going from 72% week 1, 68% week 2, 65% week 3, 50% week 4. So, like, they had been trying to get Blake Corum more involved. Kyren Williams hadn't scored 20 fantasy points all season. And now that Kyren Williams goes out, fumbles the ball, arguably costing them the game, I wouldn't be that surprised if you end up getting more Blake Corum going into the future. Now, obviously, because he's a receiver, I think we're making these rankings for a full PPR format. So in a full PPR league, maybe we move Kyren Williams up to RB11. But I think there were positives and negatives about this Kyren Williams game in terms of production going into the future. Very clearly, anybody with half a brain can open up their fantasy app, see 33 points, and go like, oh, this was all good. It wasn't all good, right? I think you had some positives, you had some negatives. We're going to have him at RB11. And if you wanted to move him inside A tier, I'd be completely fine with it. Now, let's move this over and look at the wide receivers. And obviously, both running backs here in Los Angeles fumbled. I understand. Now, looking at what we have with Davante Adams. Adams had done nothing for the vast majority of the game. But because the Rams have a bunch of garbage time, because Matthew Stafford has 47 pass attempts and almost 400 passing yards, Davante Adams gets there. He has 88 receiving yards. I think his underdog pick'em was at like higher, lower 55.5 receiving yards coming into the game. So he blows by expectations there as well. Now, I will say quickly, of course, if you're not already on Underdog Fantasy, now is by far and away the best offer that I've ever seen on Underdog. I've been with them 5 years. They're the only sponsor of this channel. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for 5 seasons. And this is by far and away the best thing that they've ever done for new users. If you sign up to Underdog Fantasy with code FLOCK, you are going to get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you're actually going to be getting additional free promos this weekend, such as a 60% profit boost token that you can use for any game this weekend, a Justin Herbert gimme pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for Sunday, a 50% profit boost token for the London game on Sunday, and a 50% profit boost token for the Monday night game with the Chiefs and Jacksonville Jaguars. Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every state. If you use code FLOCK, you're going to get all those promos. And on top of that, you're going to get free questions that you can ask me in the live streams. And I am live streaming every single day until Christmas, answering your fantasy football questions. Now, let's go ahead and let's look at where we had Davante Adams ranked coming into this. Because realistically, I don't think my opinion changes with this performance from Davante Adams at all. I had Davante Adams coming into this ranked at about wide receiver 13. I had him inside C tier, sandwiched between Tet McMillan, Rashee Rice. I'm pretty sure as time goes on, he'll slide down behind Rice. Puka, obviously, we had ranked way higher in our rankings this week because you had no Mike Evans, but long-term you'll have Evans and Godwin fully healthy. So for that reason, I think I still prefer Adams, but they're in the same tier, right? You can make an argument for any of these players. I think Davante Adams is still a C-tier wide receiver after this game. And going over and looking at what we have with Puka Nacua, what is there to discuss? 10 receptions, 85 receiving yards, receiving touchdown off of 12 targets. Like, Puka Nacua comes through and the man gives you almost 25 fantasy points, and people were expecting more. Like, his higher lower on Underdog coming into the week was higher lower 95.5 receiving yards. So, like, I'm not going to say this was a bad game from Puka, but again, going over and looking at what we have with our tier list, Puka Nacua is the wide receiver 1 in his own tier. That was the case coming into the game. It was the case coming out of the game. There's nothing to discuss. No tight ends are worth rostering in Los Angeles. I drafted Terrence Ferguson on some Underdog best ball teams thinking he would be something. Clearly he's not. Even if there's all the passing volume in the world, just everything is going to get funneled between 3 players. And those 3 players are Adams, Puka, Kyren. Nobody else is going to touch the ball. So all 3 of those names remain must-start guys every single week. Adams as a C tier wide receiver for me. High end wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1. Kyren Williams, I believe, is a B tier running back for me as a low end RB1. CMC is untouchable. In reality, I need to add a tier from McCaffrey to all the other running backs the same way that we have Puka Nacua. And in my rankings, I also need to honestly just make it where this tier is by itself, where we had been saying coming into this game, and obviously this game didn't change anything, that McCaffrey and Puka Nacua are the 2 untouchable assets in fantasy football. Like, CMC, I'm pretty sure, is averaging over 10 targets a game. So, if you have McCaffrey, if you have Puka, you would never sell them unless you are getting undoubtedly an upgrade. Like, realistically, if I was lucky enough to have McCaffrey or Puka Nacua on my team, I would need multiple players from B tier. It's like, oh, you're going to offer me Amon-Ra St. Brown and Zay Flowers? Screw off. If you want Puka Nacua, you have to give me Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Jacobs, right? Just completely different tier of assets that you're dealing with when you're looking at CMC and Puka. Do not trade them for absolutely anything. And if you get the opportunity to ever get them, you have to go for it. But I think that's all I got for you. I really appreciate you. I'm going to be recording a video after this of our top 70 flex rankings for week 5. That will drop tomorrow. Obviously, I'm going to be live streaming every single day until Christmas, answering your fantasy football questions. So if you haven't already, please make sure you drop a like on this, subscribe to the channel. We are going to be cutting it close, but there's a chance we can hit 300,000 subscribers before the end of the season, which would be insane. So again, if you would subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And if you wanted to take advantage of that offer over there on Underdog Fantasy, like I said, I've been with them for 5 years as my only sponsor. Love Underdog. Love working with them. And I've never seen them do anything like this. It's a limited time thing, but if you're a new user, play $5, get $100 added to your account with code FLOCK. And on top of that, they have additional promos running this weekend, like a 60% profit boost, a Justin Herbert gimme pick, 50% profit boost for the London game, 50% profit boost for the Monday night game. Use code FLOCK, get all those promos, and at the same time, get free questions that you can ask me in the live streams. And I'm going to be streaming every single night until the season starts. I'm sorry, not until the season starts, until Christmas. Let me see if my favorite pick'em's still available for y'all. It got moved. Yeah, my favorite pick'em beforehand was Jake Ferguson, higher than 41.5 receiving yards. Looks like that's gotten moved up to higher, lower 44.5. So it's a little bit tougher now. But I really appreciate you. Really hope I was able to make your Thursday night a little bit better. And I really hope I get to hang out with you in the live stream either tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday morning.